As I promised earlier, we are going to discuss a little bit more about the scanner class and how to use it. The scanner class allows us to parse the input that we receive from the user of the program. This is a class that we don't have to write from scratch. It's a class provided to us. It is in the java.utils package. In other words, it is in the Java library, and we can just go ahead and use it. When we want to read from the standard input, we need to do a series of steps. And we will be doing these steps in many programs because we will be asking the user for input in several of the programs we will be writing. This is just a first introduction until we actually see these in practice. The first thing we need to do is go ahead and create a scanner object. How do we do that? See the statement, the first programming statement in the slide. The part of that statement that reads as new scanner parenthesis system.in close parenthesis, this is the part of the statement that creates a new scanner object. And it is a scanner object that will be scanning, it will be processing input that comes from standard input from the keyboard, from system.in. After we have created this object, we are keeping track of this object, we are storing it into a variable. That variable is called s, and because it stores a value that is of scanner, it is a scanner object, the type of that variable is scanner. So we say variable s is of type scanner, and we assign to that, this is what the equals operator does there, we assign to that variable the value of the object we have just created. Again, we will see many times this statement, and we will be explaining it for several more topics, what exactly it means. Now that we have the scanner object and the variable that is referencing it, how can we use it? If we want to read an integer from the input stream, we're going to use the method of the scanner class called nextInt. And the way that we use a method of the scanner class is through the variable that is referencing this scanner object. So we will say s.nextInt. If we want to read a double, what is a double? It is a real number. We will talk about double, the type double, actually at the next topic. So if we want to read a real number from the input, we're going to use the method nextDouble. If we want to not just read a number, but read the whole line of the input, we're going to use the method nextLine. And every time we call such a method of the scanner class, like the methods we see on the slide, they return a value which we need to store somewhere. This is why on the left-hand side of the equals operator, we are declaring a variable of the right type every time. So I will have the value of the integer we read through the scanner. D will have the real value that we read again from the scanner. T will be the string, the whole line that we have just read from the scanner. It would be useful to you to take a look at the API of the scanner class. What is that? Let's go together and look at the API. If you just search in any search engine for the scanner class in the Java library, you will be directed to the API of that class. It is a page that describes this class to you, all you need to know as a user of that class. So it contains details, as you will see in the beginning, on how to use this class. It has examples. By the end of the class, you will be able to understand all of the details that you see on this page, on the beginning of the page. All the details that, all the word implements, extends, interfaces, these will be words that you will know what they mean and you will know how to use them. But we will have to gain this knowledge step by step. So, especially for the scanner class, you will see a long description in the beginning, and you don't have to actually go and read it right now. Then you will see a list of constructors, which we will say what they are. What I would like you to notice at this point is that all of the list of constructors that you see have the same name as the class, and they differ on what is inside the parentheses. And this is good enough for now. And after the list of constructors, always in the API of the class, you will have the list of methods. What can we invoke through that scanner variable? And you will see a lot of methods like hasNext, which we will use in the future a lot. You will also see the methods that we had on the slide. For example, you will see nextInt that we just mentioned, nextLine that we just mentioned, and so forth.